You're live, and I'm here today with another 5 questions with Jase. Jase is somewhere, as you said, on the west coast or the east coast of England?
Northeast England. Yeah.
Northeast England. That was close. Awesome. And how long have you been studying law of attraction for?
About 8 years now, but
Okay.
I haven't been studying it thoroughly. I've been getting bits and bits of everything. And like you said in one of your videos, I'm getting so much, but I'm not applying it. I'm one of those, I was in the 99% that weren't applying it and weren't doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I found the collective, it's getting to actually apply the techniques now, and it's
Awesome.
showing movements.
Yeah, well, you've shared some good manifestations so far in the collective too, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
All
and
right.
that actually gets me into my first question, which is about freedom of time and having the time to apply the techniques. And I'm finding that I have a lifestyle job where I'm needed constantly every day. And so when I do have breaks, I'm either napping or I'm having something to eat. So when I do listen to the stuff when I'm in the bath or when I'm eating. It's just I'm saying to myself, I don't have the time to do anything. How do I become the master of my time?
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is you're manifesting a lack of time, right? So time is a vibration, just like freedom would be a vibration, just like money's a vibration. So I would say for you, in order to manifest more time, it's a matter of taking your focus out of don't have enough time, I gotta be busy, blah, 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 which is probably what's creating that experience, that vibrational match, and shifting that to noticing an abundance of time. And one
Yeah,
way you could start practicing that as homework is, let's say you have a half an hour drive to get somewhere in your car. Leave 10 minutes early, and for that whole drive, notice, oh, I've got lots of time to make it there. I've got so much time to make it there. So any way you can squeeze in the awareness and noticing how much time you have, that's what I would start to practice, because that's the opposite of that lack of time aspect. Does that make sense?
yeah. I was kind of hypnotizing myself into that vibration of not having it, and I've
Totally.
just been validating it with my thoughts.
Totally.
So now if I start recognizing that I do have it, it seems so simple the way you've put it.
Totally. And then the other thing you could look at too is, how does the lack of time make you feel? So when you think of not having enough time, what's the emotion that comes up? Is there a rushed feeling? Is there an overwhelmed feeling? Is there a stuck feeling? Right?
Stuck and stress, I would say.
Yeah. And did you
Yeah,
do the attraction point audit in the call we did last month?
I did, yes.
Yeah. And was stuck one of your dominant emotions that came up?
It was stuck and not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
Both of
And not
those,
good
yeah.
enough is actually, stuck and not good enough, I would say, are probably the top two I see in most people.
Yeah.
So for you, the second piece of homework on more freedom of time or abundance of time would be to maybe clear the stuck feeling too.
Right, yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Piece of cake. Great question. Throw another one at me.
Thank you. Um, this is one about the concept of the inner being. I'm finding it hard to relate to the fact. The way I see it, I visualized it in my head. You know those cartoons where you have the little angel on your shoulder? You have the
Yeah.
little devil?
Yeah.
Well, this angel's got a mute button on it, and this devil's saying, don't do this, eat, sleep, overdo things. You haven't got time for this. All I'm hearing is the devil.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing is the negative voice, the inner
Yeah. I
critic.
call that the inner critic. So
Yeah,
inner critic, inner being.
yeah. And what I want to do is I want to mute the inner critic, and I want to start hearing the inner being, but I can't seem to get that
Yeah.
connection.
So in order to mute the inner critic, you want to take its fuel away. Okay? So, and I'm just going to take a guess here. You said not good enough was one of your dominant negative emotions.
Hmm.
The major theme of that inner critic that's on your shoulder, is it a constant theme of not good enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because that inner critic gets fueled by the negative emotional baggage that we're carrying.
Mm.
So by doing things like the belief tree process, the freedom formula, the more you can clear out that feeling of not good enough, the more you take the power away from that inner critic, and
Yeah.
it will have less fuel to voice itself. And this is a great question
Mm.
because, again, most people who listen to Abraham Hicks, they're under the impression that, oh, negative emotion, I got to just focus on something else that feels good. Negative emotion,
Yeah.
I got to, and that's a good first step. But if you
Mm.
always just focus away, then you're not doing anything to tame that voice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you don't do anything to tame that voice, high and consistent alignment or getting into alignment is going to be more effort because you've got that voice chirping in the background.
Yeah.
So essentially, the key to that is clearing those emotions out. And another example you can
Mm.
use is somebody who's got a lot of emotions of not good enough. It only takes something very small to trigger them into that emotion, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're driving down the street and they accidentally cut somebody off and that person honks at them and then they feel not good enough for the rest of the day because that happened, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, somebody who doesn't have that emotional baggage, the example I use is The Rock, or you could use David Hasselhoff. I know you're a Baywatch fan, but like somebody like The Rock is there you go is going to be so confident that if somebody walked by The Rock and said, "Hey, Rock, you suck," well, his confidence is so high that that's not going to bother him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that inner critic is fueled by the baggage we carry. And by
Mhm.
effectively dealing with and clearing that baggage, you take the power away from that inner critic and it'll automatically silence itself.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because I can have a day where maybe, so let's say 5 people say nice things and it's wonderful, and one person can say something negative and it's just destroyed the day. Do you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And that's what you said about The Rock, is you've got to come at it from that vibration of just brushing off the little things
Yeah.
and focusing on the big things that are going well.
Yeah. And it won't sting as bad if that emotion is not there. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the big thing about the clearing work is, somebody who's got anger issues, it's not because he's got anger in his DNA. It's because
Mm.
that person has a big emotional baggage filled with anger. So it just takes a
Mm.
little bit to set that fuse off and, push them over the edge into their anger.
Yeah. That sounds like me after a breakup.
Yeah,
Uh, I kid myself that I need the anger to get over it, but it totally, it gives me a paralysis to the good feelings.
absolutely. And the good news is that once you really effectively deal with that stuff, and when I work with one-on-one clients, it typically takes 8 to 12 weeks. But
Hmm.
once you really clear all of this stuff out, it's so life-changing because that's what makes alignment effortless. And you're not
Yeah.
triggered into wobble-worthy circumstances anymore. And that's why I'm such a big promoter of these processes in the collective, because
Hmm.
everybody's carrying these things in one way or another, right? Most people have 1 to 3 of these dominant negative emotions. And
Yeah.
dealing with these things and clearing them is literally the most life-changing thing anybody can do.
Yeah, and I've been kind of kidding myself that I've been watching everybody else do it and kind of telling myself that I don't need to do that. Do you know what I mean? But I so do.
Yeah, yeah. And it's okay, right? To
Mm.
acknowledge that because nobody goes through childhood and the teenage years without collecting negative emotions. Like it's
Mm.
literally, we choose to come into this physical reality for that contrast because that contrast is what leads to our growth and our expansion.
Mhm.
So, a lot of people think, oh, I don't have that, or I don't want to worry about that, or I don't want to look at that. That's a choice. You don't have to look at that stuff if you don't want to. But I just
Yeah.
want people to know how significant of a positive shift you will experience both in the way you feel and what
Yeah,
you experience out here by working through that stuff.
that's it. That's it. I've been focusing on the 2.0 recently,
Yeah,
and I realised I have been the 2.0 before, and that's the best version of me. But I want to get there so I can jump into the 3.0, which is the version I've never been before.
totally.
But
Totally.
like you've said before, do it gradually, do the baby steps. Don't expect big results by doing just one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would still expect the results, but
Mhm.
be detached from the results. Understand that
Yeah,
work is a journey and it's always going to be a journey. And it's
yeah,
not about doing the work for the change, it's about doing the work for the way it's going to make you feel. And
yeah,
looking for the outer change, then that puts you in a more less resistant place for that change to happen.
yeah. And like I realized just recently, I mean, I came here like most did because I wanted to attract more money. But I realized it's less about the external things and it's more about the internal things, and it's about improving me, not not improving the world that I get things. It's improving myself so that things come to me that I deserve. It's
Absolutely. And I'm going to be a little bit nitpicky. I don't like the word improving because like
yeah,
you're already perfect just the way you are, right?
mhm,
So it's not about improving, it's more about finding a more preferred state of being.
yeah. Stepping into that version of me that I know is in there that I've let go of.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. All right, throw another question at me. This is good stuff.
Brilliant, thank you. Um, this one's about pushing against joy and pushing against things that are good for me. An example would be exercise, and there's no better feeling that I get when I've done a proper workout. And yet I talk myself out of it by saying, I'll do it tomorrow. I can't be bothered today. I'll do it Monday.
Okay.
And once I'm in that routine, I'm there. But how do I stop myself from talking myself out of it?
Would you call it procrastination?
Procrastination and, yeah, being lazy.
Okay. So if so what pops up in the top of your head when I said, you know, if you decided you were going to work out every day for the next 3 weeks, what's the worst thing that could happen?
There isn't a worse thing.
Okay. And does working out feel unsafe in any way?
Not unsafe. Nah,
Okay. Does it feel like it's a waste of time in any way?
no, the opposite.
Okay. But I don't want to do it because
It takes effort.
it takes effort. Okay. So it's too much
Yeah,
effort.
yeah,
Now, is the gain worth the effort?
totally, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. And are you more, when you get up in the morning, are
Mhm.
you more focused on the gain or are you more focused on the effort?
I suppose the effort, definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I've got two pieces of advice.
Mhm.
One, before you even think about the gym, so do you go to the gym first thing in the morning?
Now I've actually got home gym things here. I've got a weights bench. I've got
Okay,
a
perfect.
cardio machine. Yeah.
So when do you typically use it? Do you typically do it same time every day when you do use it?
When I try, and try, that's a horrible word. When
Yeah.
I do use it, it's evening just before I eat, so maybe about 4 o'clock.
Okay, here's what I would do. Okay. So earlier you mentioned Jase 3.0, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And does Jase 3.0 use that equipment most days?
yeah.
How many days a week does Jase 3.0 use that equipment?
6 days a week.
Okay. And in order to be Jase 3.0, what do you have to do? Do you have to act like Jase 3.0?
I have to act, think, and become.
Absolutely. So Do you want to be Jase 3.0?
Yes, more than anything.
When you wake up tomorrow morning, can you choose today, I'm going to be Jase 3.0 to the best of my ability?
Yeah,
And now, how does doing the working out feel now?
it feels natural.
Good.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't think about it until you do your morning practice first. So if you do a morning
yeah,
practice that gets you into alignment, do your practice, get into alignment, and then be like, I'm in alignment now. I'm Jase 3.0. What is
yeah,
Jase 3.0 going to do today? Oh, he's going to go work out. I'm going to go work out.
yeah.
So choosing to be Jase 3.0.
I like that. I like that. What I have found as well, you mentioned the morning routine, is all my best workout days, I've done meditation beforehand, and the days I don't do it, I don't get into that elevated mood, and I just think,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Because when you feel good, so is working out and taking care of your health a high vibration or a low vibration activity?
oh, very high vibration.
Right.
Yeah,
So when you're in alignment and in a high vibration, it's easier to match the activities that are high vibration,
absolutely. Yeah,
right? A lot of people think that they need to eat the right foods to put them at the vibration they want to be at, but they
mm,
don't realize that when you're in a high vibration, you're naturally going to crave healthier foods,
yeah.
right?
I've noticed as well. I tend to lose more weight the more positive I feel, and
Absolutely.
if I'm negative, I tend to hold on to the weight,
Absolutely.
and
Right?
that's been a definite pattern in my life. So all of these questions are kind of tying in as well.
Absolutely. Right? And the answer is simply get into alignment and then.
Mhm. Yeah, and then
Awesome.
become unstoppable. Yeah,
Awesome. Good. You already are unstoppable. Choose that you're unstoppable.
yeah, become my
Awesome.
3.0 unstoppable self.
You are tomorrow morning when you wake up, decide I am my 3.0.
Yeah, that's important as well. Is doing it first thing when I wake, because my usual pattern, the normal pattern is get out of bed, start work, and it's the mindset there is I have to do work. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Totally.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm going to program myself as soon as I wake up now.
Awesome. Awesome. Keep me posted.
I will do.
All right. Next question.
And this is kind of a logic loop thing. It's about the alignment being more joyful than the actual results, in
Okay.
the sense of if I want something and I have to have the joy of it first, when it comes, is all that's left the satisfaction of having it. And in that case, that means I feel better without having it. So do I need it?
So the question is, do I need it? So I don't know. That's an interesting question because it depends, I think, on how you define need or what does need mean, right?
Mhm,
So I think that anything that we truly need, our
mhm,
inner being co-creationally delivers it to us,
mhm,
right? So that's an interesting question. So when you're happy, when you're satisfied without the desire, that's when the desire shows up because you're no longer dependent on the desire to feel good, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So that's the zone you want to aim for. That's where you want to be.
Mhm,
And then when that desire shows up, still milk the desire, still be excited about the desire.
yeah.
So yeah, so I would say, do you need it? I don't think there's ever a need for a need.
No.
But you can still milk and enjoy that desire when it shows up.
Yeah. That explains it. I was just kind of mulling it over in my head, saying if I get it, I'll just be satisfied. But I've got the joy anyway. But
Yeah,
then, but then it's like I said. Now my main desire is to become my better self. It doesn't really matter if I have things or not. So I'm kind of answering my own question as I'm thinking
yeah,
about it as well.
and that's really the premise of the new paradigm,
Yeah.
right? Because with the new paradigm, you're so focused on just milking and taking pleasure in reality for what reality is,
Mm.
you're no longer concerned about if and when things are going to show up. And
Mm.
that's when they do.
Yeah. Can people get complacent in a vibration of alignment and just think that they've got there and it stops happening?
I would say no, because when you're in complacency, then you're probably not in alignment anymore.
Ah,
Right?
yeah.
So, and there's always going to be new excitements. There's always going to be leading edge of anything, right?
Yeah.
So anything you do, there's always more expansive versions of that, and more expansive versions of that, and more expansive
Hmm.
versions of that. And your inner being is always guiding you down that path.
Hmm.
Without that path, there would be no point to existence.
Yeah. And I don't know how to say this, but when you transition, you might only be guessing here, but do you still have desire, or is that just a human
Ooh,
thing?
that's a good question. I would say yes, but maybe the desires would be different.
Mm.
Um, that's a very good question. That would be a great hot seat question for Abraham Hicks. Does your inner, and I know the answer is yes. I know inner beings have desire.
Hmm.
What those desires are, that's a very good question. I want to find the answer out to that though.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a case of like having desires for people who are still here and guiding them and things like that.
Yeah, the desires I'm guessing would be different.
Mm.
Maybe desires for expansion, for our well-being. That's a very. I'm going to get the answer to that. I'm going to get somebody to channel that for me because that's really good.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
And then,
Any more questions on your list?
yeah, my last question's kind of it's kind of humorous, but it's also quite real,
Okay.
and it's a phenomenon that I and my friends call a time thief. But you
Okay.
might know that as an energy vampire in other terms, and it's when you're in a social group and you can't avoid somebody who leaves you feeling drained because all they talk about is themselves and they won't let you converse with them.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people who's too polite to say anything, so I end up stuck with them for a long time. And then I find that I've gone in there having a good time and I leave feeling drained and annoyed. And I'm just wondering, is there a higher vibration way of dealing with those sorts of encounters?
Well, it's never them that drains us. It's our own perspectives, right?
Right, yeah.
So, it's normal for some people to be uplifters when we're around them, and for some
Mhm.
people are the opposite of uplifters. And everybody's got different personalities. So somebody that might be an uplifter for you might be the opposite for somebody else, right? So I
Brilliant.
would say when somebody has that impact on us, that vibrationally, there's a bit of a mismatch there.
Mm,
Maybe we're practicing a perspective that's pulling us down, that person is triggering in us. So,
yeah,
there's kind of two things you can look at. One, you can look at what's the perspectives that I'm practicing that's weighing me down and making me feel heavy and draining me. Or
yeah,
second, and the second one is probably what relates more for you, is you learning how to enforce your boundaries with what feels good and not
mm,
to compromise yourself and what you want in your full cup, to try to keep somebody else uplifted.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense because I tend to think of it from a point of view is I want everyone to like me, so I don't want to have to say something that might make somebody dislike me.
Yeah, and that ties back to the first part of our conversation with the not good enough,
Yes,
right?
yeah. It's always
Because
as if
when we can, appease people or make somebody else happy, then that's almost a permission slip for us to feel good,
yeah.
right? Something I addressed in the practitioner training that I'm launching later this month is something called the wounded healer. And a lot of coaches, they're not in the right energy for the coaching work because their biggest intent is to heal people, not for the joy and the excitement of the
Mm,
process, which is what you should be doing it for, but for their own self validation, their own self worth.
Mm.
And those are things that practitioners and coaches want to work through in order to run a successful practice. So what you're describing is actually something that's quite common in a lot of people in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's rooted in this not good enoughness.
Yeah. So the key to handle it would be that both parties get something from it, but without any negatives.
Yeah, and being okay that if something doesn't serve you, to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the past, when I'm very drunk, I have given them my glass that's got a bit of beer left in it and said, "Would you hold this for me while I go to the bathroom?" And I've disappeared out the back door to the next pub.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I do know the escape plan, but that's in an emergency.
Totally. Awesome. So did that answer your question okay?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. Did we make it through your whole list?
That was my whole list. Yeah. Did we
Awesome.
do it in
Great.
time? Yeah.
Great job. Great questions.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
3.0, here I come.
Awesome. You send me an update or post an update in the collective group. At the end, give it a week. Let me know how you're making out.
I'll be happy to.
Awesome.
Thank you
So
so much.
next time we chat, it'll be Jase 3.0. You'll have to change your little username there on your screen.
I certainly will do. Thank
Awesome.
you.
All right. You have a good night, Jase.
You too. Thanks for being awesome.
Thank you.